In the spirit of reconciliation, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather today. Where First People have performed age-old ceremonies, I pay my respect to their elders, past and present. I extend that respect to the Aboriginal and Strait Torres people here today. Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to be with you today. Today, I stand in front of you as a husband, dad of 3 gorgeous girls, a brother, a friend, a visionary, and a change maker and a citizen of the world who wholeheartedly believes that we can create a hassle-free culture where we flourish, prioritize well-being, and live inspired lives. I'm a dual citizen of both a third world country and a first world country, so I've been fortunate enough to experience the best and the worst of both worlds. I'm Kenyan Australian, 2 countries at the opposite ends of the spectrum. Culturally, Kenya has rich heritage of tribal traditions and languages, while Australia boasts a diverse population with influence from indigenous cultures, European settlers, and immigrants from all over the world. Like most Africans, I'm multilingual. I speak Luo, Swahili, and English. Despite their distinct cultures, experiences, history, and geographical features, the lessons about life and well-being are remarkably similar. Today, I will share my story of how experiences from both worlds have shaped my well-being, mindset, identity, and who I am today. You will hear about how I have navigated being a migrant without support, embraced change and cultural differences to find a balanced sweet spot, and survive divorce with my well-being intact. I'll also share how I have overcome adversity without resorting to numbing with work, alcohol, or drugs. Moreover, you learn how I've leveraged my habits and mindset to flourish in my marriage, family, and business without burning out in one of the toughest eras to be in business. 15 years ago today, I boarded my first ever flight from Nairobi, Kenya to Brisbane, Australia. It was a long and tiring journey, over 24 hours of flight time filled with both uncertainty and excitement. I remember hugging my parents, showing affection, and crying for the first time ever. That's right, I hugged my parents for the first time ever at 26. I boarded my first flight ever at 26, traveled overseas for the first time at 26, and expressed emotions and showed affection for the first time at 26. Notice the cultural differences already? So, as you can imagine, I had a lot of learning and catching up to do when I arrived in Australia. Growing up in East Africa, Kenya, we didn't have everything, but we had everything we needed. Life was simple, and we hardly ever noticed what we lacked. We knew we were loved, but showing affection or expressing emotions was not the norm, almost a taboo. Being regarded as weak was everyone's nightmare, especially for men. Toxic masculinity was the norm. So I grew up emotionally unaware and out of touch with my feelings. To be honest, I didn't realize it then, but looking back, mental health issues were often dismissed as black magic and required prayers, not mental health intervention. Arriving in Australia. Arriving in Australia was a mix of excitement and cultural discovery. I landed mid-morning, took a quick shower, and was then whisked away to the shopping mall for lunch. When asked what I wanted to eat, I eagerly requested something Australian, only to find out that even the locals struggled to define what was Australian, because Australia is so diverse. Eventually, I opted for McDonald's, because I'd always seen it on TV. Despite loving it, as the slogan goes, our relationship was short-lived after becoming more health conscious following my experience flipping burgers at Macca's. I haven't had one since 2014. One evening, I was asked if I was ready for tea. I declined, not realizing that tea meant dinner. I was also perplexed when offered sandwiches for lunch. How could sandwiches be a meal? Don't people cook here? I wondered. I love nearly everything about Australia, except one thing, Vegemite sandwiches. This was just the beginning of culture shock. Another aspect of adjusting to life in Australia was remembering family's birthday. To date, I still don't know any of my family's birthday. My first ever birthday gift came when I was 26 after moving to Australia. Luckily, my wife reminds me of this important date. With Australia being ahead of Kenya in time zones, I'm always the first one to wish everyone a happy birthday. Forgetting birthdays in Australia, I quickly learned that can be disastrous. One of the biggest culture shock I experienced when I arrived in Australia was the difference in social life and community. It felt like almost everyone kept to themselves, and the sense of community was lacking. In Africa, it was common to receive 6 to 10 random visits in a day from friends, family, or even strangers. We would eat together, and everyone was incredibly friendly and welcoming. Anyone who has visited Africa would attest to this one. We would shake hands and greet strangers as we passed by, offering genuine smiles rather than the fake smiles that mask sadness. When I arrived in Australia, I gradually stopped shaking hands because my hand was often left hanging. Handshakes are not a norm here. I also reduced the habit of greeting and complimenting strangers as I did in Africa because I didn't want to come across as a weirdo. Another shock was the amount of food waste. After a few months in Australia, I realized that the richest nations are often the poorest, and the poorest nations are often the richest in different ways. What do I mean by this? In Australia, there's an abundance of food, so much that people often diet or restrict food to avoid gaining weight. Most of the food is processed and convenient. In Africa, there isn't an abundance of food, but it's always real food, real and processed food. Most people in Australia have their basic needs met, but often seem sad and miserable compared to those in Africa. In Africa, many people lack basic needs, yet always seem to be the happiest people I know. I've always looked up to people who chose to be grateful. They gave me hope. What a courageous choice that despite all the pain, suffering, loss, and failure, the mere gift of being conscious and having a shot at life fills them with love. So one day, I decided that no matter what happened to me, good or bad, I was going to be one of those people. I was going to be grateful, and I was going to give people hope. So here I am at your service. The journey of self-discovery. Divorce. Both the hardest and the best thing that has ever happened to me. At 26, I married a woman who was 21. We were young, emotionally unaware, and our relationship quickly became toxic. After just 4 years, we divorced. I was engulfed in shame as divorce was uncommon in my African culture. I didn't know anyone who had ever gone through it until I moved to Australia. I felt like a failure, and I wished the earth would swallow me whole. We had hidden our toxic, codependent relationship for too long. Eventually, I decided to take the plunge, moved out, relocated interstate. I faced a choice: continue pretending to be happy, to be in a happy marriage, and remain miserable, or confront my fears and create a happy future I deserved and desired. There was no way around it. Over it or under it. The only way was through it. I had to endure the pain. I had to endure the pain to earn my happiness and prioritize what was best for me over society, religion, or cultural expectation. I didn't see it then, but in hindsight, being divorced was the hardest and the best thing that has ever happened to me. It revealed to me that fear is not real. Fear is often a construct of mind, born from the interpretations of experiences, perceptions, and anticipations of potential dangers or negative outcomes. When we encounter fear, our mind assesses it through our past experiences, cultural conditioning, and personal beliefs, which often distorts our perspective. For instance, fearing public speaking due to anticipated judgment or failure is a mental projection, not an actual danger. Recognizing fear as a mental construct allows us to challenge and change our perceptions by understanding fear as a product of the mind. We can dismantle the arguments we made about what is threatening. This involves questioning the validity of our fears, reevaluating the evidence, and gradually exposing ourselves to fear situations to build resilience and confidence. To break this cycle, we must face the very things we believe we are afraid of. By continuously doing this, we break through patterns associated with fear and realize that it is something we have created. Confronting fear allows us to reclaim our power. Fear is the only thing that holds us back from achieving any of our desires. Confronting it requires vulnerability. Think about it. Would we be scared to pursue a business or any of our dreams if we knew that we were the only person? Say, for example, you wanted to get a degree or do your PhD, and you knew that you're the only person on earth. It wouldn't matter whether we fail or we don't. So, which means we are not afraid of failing. We are afraid of watching other people. We are afraid of other people watching us fail. So, fear of judgment. So, this means that to confront our fears, to achieve anything we want in life, we have to confront our fear. But vulnerability is a prerequisite to a fear. Because think about it, like, I'm gonna start a business, and if it doesn't work, everybody's gonna watch me fail. You have to be vulnerable. If you're not willing to be vulnerable, we can't. Even love, even marriage. If you're in love, you're married right now, when we're in marriage, anything could happen. Could lose everything, could get divorced. We're always vulnerable. But to achieve that thing, there's no achieving what we want without the price. We're not scared of failing. We're scared of others watching us fail, which is a reflection of our self-worth. If our self-worth relies on others validating us, we'll always do what's best for everyone else but ourselves. If our self-worth relies on others' validation, we become people pleasers at the expense of our health and well-being. The paradox of people pleasing is that it doesn't make people love and accept us, but does the complete opposite. Trying to be all things to all people isn't about our desire to make people happy or being a nice person. It's about trying to make ourselves feel worthy. It's about filling the void. When we people please, we become resentful, stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, unfulfilled. We lack boundaries, sleep deprived, emotionally dysregulated, and surround ourselves with toxic relationships. We end up glorifying hustle and workaholic culture and admire people who keep on going and going, even when they're sick, stressed, or going through grief. True strength lies in our ability to take a step back so our body can repair and we can process our emotions. All of this is a recipe for disaster for our health, relationship, quality of life, and general well-being. Numbing. Like most people do when in pain, I tried to numb with alcohol, partying, work, toxic relationship, and everything in between in vain. But the more I numb, the more miserable I became. Life has taught me that we can numb and distract ourselves as much as we want from negative emotions. But unless we learn to confront and embrace our emotions, we will always be a society plagued by sadness, anxiety, depression, and misery. Engaging in workaholism, smoking, pornography, drugs, alcohol, unhealthy obsession with over-exercising and extreme diets are merely ways for us to avoid negative emotions such as stress, anger, anxiety, heartbreak, loneliness, frustration, worry, depression, sadness, fear, failure, and grief. We tend to avoid negative emotions because sitting with our emotions feel uncomfortable. However, by avoiding these emotions, we deny ourselves the opportunity to learn how to regulate our emotions and overcome them. As a result, we end up feeling even more sad, miserable, anxious, depressed, because we are too preoccupied with masking our emotions rather than addressing them. And when we block feelings of negative emotions, we end up blocking positive emotions like joy, happiness, peace, hope, love, gratitude, etc. We cannot isolate emotions. We can't block, we can't avoid. Like if we try to avoid heartbreak, we end up not falling in love because it means that we don't give our wives or lovers a chance. Or if we avoid living, we're scared. It's like we don't want to be vulnerable, we're scared that if we drive a car, we're going to have a road accident. We wouldn't be here today. So we can't isolate emotions. Like we have to be vulnerable is to be alive. And when we block feelings of negative emotions, we end up blocking positive emotions. Like joy, happiness, peace, hope, love, gratitude, etc. To overcome our emotions, we must learn to confront them rather than avoiding them. We need to develop the ability to find comfort in discomfort and be open to experiencing our emotions. New beginnings. Despite being petrified of falling in love again, I invested in my own transformation. Sometimes we just need to unbecome who we are so that we can attract the right people and things in our lives. Today, I'm married to an amazing woman, Melody H, who is also my business partner. Together, we co-founded Imani Transformations in 2016. Imani Transformation is a leading global body and lifestyle transformation company. We are the ones people come to when all the diets, guesswork, and an all or nothing approach fail. Our mission is to disrupt the diet culture, redefine the health and fitness paradigm, empower individuals to reclaim their health, vitality, freedom, and quality of life, and restore what the diet culture has stolen from humanity, all without compromising well-being. Our vision is a diet-free world where individuals flourish, prioritize well-being, and live inspired lives. You can learn more about us at imanitribe.com. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't gotten divorced. It was an awful experience, but I guess it was necessary. Sometimes life will throw curveballs at us, but we must not give up hope. Last but not least, I have a few suggestions that might help you optimize your well-being, flourish, and live an inspired life from today. While most of these lessons were learned during my darkest moments, please be assured that it does not matter whether you've been a migrant or divorced, your gender, your ethnic or religious background, your orientation, or your social status. Our struggles in this world are similar, and the lessons to overcome these struggles and move forward are universal. Let's face it, we don't have body shape, weight loss, relationship, well-being, business, parenting, or health problem. Insert any other problem We don't have any of that problem. We have personal problems that reflect throughout our life. Sometimes it reflects in our well-being, sometimes in our mental health, sometimes in our relationships, sometimes in our work, sometimes in our business. What are personal problems? Habits, mindset, beliefs, identities, and fears. Unfortunately, these underlying emotions and psychological factors cannot be resolved superficially. Addressing our habit and mindset is at the core of solving almost all our problems. I'll use an example to finish. Like when we look at well-being, well-being means different things to different people. But when we look at well-being, whatever it means to you, when we look at well-being, today you ask anybody why they don't prioritize their well-being, why we sabotage our well-being. Almost everyone who is not on top of their well-being will say time. We always use time as an example. Time problem. But the thing is, we don't have a time problem. We have a time management problem, which is a reflection of our habit and mindset. You can find someone who has same person with 4 children, 1 wife, same job, and someone always has a time to slow down and go for a walk. Someone always doesn't have. What makes a difference? The difference is habit and mindset. So the problem with the world today is that the way we solve these problems superficially. For example, an example would be like giving someone who has a time problem and is always late an extra 2 hours a day. Whether you give them an extra 2 hours a day, they're still gonna be late because time is not the problem. So we need to address these things at a deeper level. Our well-being is always compromised as a result of not prioritizing ourselves. We always think we don't put ourselves first because we don't have time. But the truth is that we don't have a time problem. We have a time management problem, which is a reflection of our habit and mindset. Therefore, to optimize our well-being comes from addressing our habit and mindset, not from finding more time or waiting for the perfect time. May we always prioritize our well-being. May we always put ourselves first. May we always fit our oxygen mask first. Thank you. Any questions?